Don't be fooled by the music and dancing. This is actually a Ghanaian funeral. Here in Ghana, death isn't the somber affair that I'm used to in the UK. And after a week of mourning, I'm following one man's stylish send-off. What you're seeing now really sums up the spirit of Ghanaian funerals. Joy, community. The entire village have gathered to celebrate the life of this fisherman as he rides his final wave to his resting place. It's a unique tradition of bringing art to the afterlife by burying people in coffins representative of their time on Earth. Growing up in Ghana, I used to think that these coffins were nothing more than supersized toys. After 14 years living in the UK, I've come back to the capital, Accra, to find out why we use them and where they came from. And where better to start than the place it all began. Oh wow, look at that. Look at that. This is the Kanikwe Carpentry Workshop, known as the original coffin makers in Ghana. This is a shoemaker?
Yeah, for a shoemaker.
Lawrence has been a coffin maker here for 12 years. His grandfather opened this workshop in the 60s and was one of the first in Ghana to make what is now known as fantasy coffins, in some ways by accident. Kanikwe was building a palanquin. It's a wooden structure used to carry chiefs. And then something unexpected happened.
He was supposed to build a palanquin in the form of a cocoa pot for one chief.
Wow.
But then the chief passed away before he finished. So he went to the family and then convinced them and then used the cocoa pot as a coffin.
Wow, and that's what started this whole tradition of building coffins of things that people like.
So that was his first coffin he ever made.
What's the history, the historical significance of this trade?
We believe in the afterlife. We believe whatever you do on this earth, when you go to the other world, you continue it there. So it's my responsibility to give you a befitting burial by building you a nice coffin.
It's a busy trade, and even now he has several projects on the go, including this car behind us.
Yeah, you know, when you pass away, it's the family that comes to order your coffin. Mostly it's based on what you do for a living or something you love so much.
And this person loved Mercedes-Benz?
Actually, he was the first to own a Mercedes-Benz in the family.
Wow.
And then he loved that Benz so much. So when he passed away, the family decided to give him something like this.
These wooden coffins don't come cheap. The more elaborate they are, the more expensive, costing between £350 and £750. I mean, these are truly something special. Look at the detail on that fish, well, that coffin. You can tell it takes a lot of skill, lots of craftsmanship into building a fantasy coffin. Fantasy coffins are just one part of funeral traditions in Ghana. Over in Teshi, a town on the outskirts of the capital, Accra, I went to meet one of the local chiefs to find out more about them.
Europeans cannot compare their funerals to our funerals at all. We love ourselves and we are family, we are one family. So when it happened to somebody, it has happened to all. So everybody have to stop whatever is doing to have time for the burial, the person who is going, to give him the last respect.
And when it comes to fantasy coffins, it's not just a case of choosing whatever you fancy.
You can't just wake up and say that they should bury me with elephant. They should bury me with fish. Do you get me? It depends upon what you come to do on this earth.
In another part of town, fantasy coffins are being made into collector's items. I've come to Pajo's workshop, where these coffins are being shipped all over the world.
I think most of all the pieces here are for international purposes. Any collector or adler can only come in and acquire one and just ship it to wherever they want to. We have a lot of prominent people who have become a very good friend of Pajo, and they have visited the workshop, like former President Jimmy Carter of the United States, former President Bill Clinton, the former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, and many ambassadors, who come to Ghana.
For international clients, the bill is higher. Some even spend up to £15,000 for one of these coffins. Jacob learns the craft from his father, Pajo, one of Ghana's first fancy coffin makers. And now he's passing those skills on to the next generation.
So sometimes when we bring art students here for residencies, they can also learn how to without the power tools, for them to enhance, their skills, in making art.
And now Jacob has taken fancy coffins to new heights by turning these pieces into global works of art.
What inspired you to make this?
COVID.
COVID?
Yeah, COVID. And, after shaking hands, after touching a few things, you should be, your door lock, even after touching it, you should be able to sanitize your hands,
So while people were watching Netflix and stuff during COVID, you were making a vodka sanitizer?
Sure.
This may not be Ghana's longest tradition, but fantasy coffins are becoming a staple here. And as they grow in popularity, who knows, maybe one day you'll see a large, colourful canoe floating down the streets where you live.